Welcome back to another episode of STL Real Estate Roundtable. I'm your host, Jaden Barr, team leader of Keller Williams Realty Chesterfield. And today I'm joined by a very special guest. One of our own, Angela Dillmon. Angela, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
My pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, excited to dive in. Let's jump right in here.
Okay.
What got you started in a career in real estate?
Wow, what got me started? Well, when I go way back, my parents owned like 20 acres out in the country, and they literally built their own home out there, a second home. And my family built it. My uncle was a bricklayer. I handed him every brick. I watched my uncle swing a nail, and he just like, boom, one shot, and it was down. Mm-hmm. And I think I was hooked watching that go up. I was like 9 years old. Mm-hmm. And I think I was hooked in real estate even though I didn't know it. Because later on in life, I never really thought about a career in real estate because I was like, I don't want to work weekends. Who wants to work weekends? That seems terrible. I would never want to do that. Mm-hmm. But when I got married, my husband and I decided that we wanted to own some real estate, some multifamilies. And so in the process of searching for our first two-family, where we were going to live in the bottom and rent the top out, we found ourselves in real estate school, both of us. And so while we were in the process of searching and hunting for that two-family, we took our real estate classes. We were both working full-time, and we were like, this would be great. We'll get a real estate license, and we'll own investment property. And that's originally why we got into it. We got our license, and I was working full-time, and I came home one day, and I said, I quit my job. I'm going into real estate. And he goes, okay. Of course, he was working out at McDonnell Douglas, which is Boeing by now, but so he had all the main, all the perks and everything of a great company that he worked for. So I could do that. I could just walk home and say that. So that's kind of how we got started. We were living in our two-family by then, and I just went whole hog. It was like, quit my job and started doing it.
That is awesome. So you jumped all in.
All in, all one foot.
That's
all
great.
Time.
That's great. So, and then it's been, nothing but sunshine and rainbows since then, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Easy piece of cake, right?
It took a long time to learn. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. So walk me through that learning process from, getting licensed, just getting started to where your business is at today. Obviously, you have a very, very successful team. You've got talented agents within your team. Like, what has been the biggest challenge throughout the years, and then talk me through just kind of like that growth.
Yeah, so I'm the biggest challenge, right? So you're your own worst enemy, like you are. I think the biggest challenge is the growth you have to go through. So one thing about capitalism in general, and especially when you're your own boss and you're doing it yourself, is your failures are your own. So
look in the mirror, right?
Right? You make it or break it. So when you're into the real estate, you have to learn so much. There's so much to real estate. There's so many facets to how the house was built, to contracts, to titles and surveys, and there's just a lot. And then there's the business end of it, which I didn't know much about. I did not have a business degree. I had 2 years of college at the time, and I no business background whatsoever. And I think the business part of it is really probably even the bigger challenge of it all, which is when I eventually found KW, what was a game changer for me. So I started out, there was no KW in St. Louis at the time because I've been selling for a very long time. And I took as much training as I could that was available at the time, which wasn't much. I learned how to write contracts and stuff like that, and I just started knocking doors and just started talking to people. So it was a slow go because I did not have the business background or business models, to follow. And so I think that was the biggest challenge. It was like, how do you get this really going? And so about 11 years ago, when I found KW, I was like, oh my gosh, look at the business models these people have. And the training. I mean, they're number one training coaching company in the world. And once I found them, I was like, wow. And that really took me to another level. But, biggest challenges are just like knowing yourself and figuring out who you are, what makes you tick, what your giftings are, and then how do you use them in real estate? I think real estate can appeal to people because they can kind of do it the way it fits them.
Yeah.
Right? So like
a lot of ways to be successful in real
oh my
estate,
gosh,
right?
you look at how many realtors, there's like almost 7,000 real estate agents in St. Louis. And if you talk to each one of them does their business a little bit differently. Some a lot differently. And it's amazing, right? So that's why I think it's kind of hard because you can't just mimic someone because you may not have that personality or that set of giftings. Like some people love to have events and they're just party people, and I'm not. Like wrapping my head around an event, I just go, what? I don't know. I call my cousin, so every party I've ever had, I call my cousin because she's the party planner, right? So you have to figure out who you are and your giftings, really.
And stay true to that.
Yeah, you do. And you have to figure out how to do this business well, help people, and then yet it suits who you are. Yeah. I think that's the biggest challenge is trying to figure yourself out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you started off as a solo agent. Right?
Yeah, I was a solo agent for most of our career. I mean, leverage. Who knew about leverage way back, 35 years ago? I mean, their teams didn't exist. Yeah. Buyers agents didn't exist. You still got the telephone book for your listings once a week. There was no internet.
Yeah.
So, there's all the challenges of learning real estate and contracts and the business end of it. And then there's changing with the times all the time and the technology. Started off with a solo agent, was a solo agent for probably, 10 years? For not 10 years, till 10 years ago. So a good 25 years as a solo agent until I found, again, KW and found the team model. One of the other big reasons that I came to KW was to learn how do you have a team and still make money and leverage well, that it's a win-win for people that are on your team helping you and yourself. How is it a win-win? And how do you do it? I didn't know. I didn't have the business background. So KW gave it to me.
Yeah. So talk to me about like the challenges of going from solo agent to leading a team, like growing a team. And then I think one thing that a lot of agents that need that leverage is they are scared to take off the cape and delegate things. And then they struggle with creating that win-win environment for people that come into their world. So talk to me about like how that has evolved and then maybe how you attract and then keep talent.
Yeah, those are great questions.
I threw about 8 questions in there, so feel free to touch on any.
So I have an awesome buyer's agent. His name is Josh Gullidge, and he just had his 10-year anniversary.
That's amazing.
How about that? Isn't that amazing? And so we're so proud of him. He's had the best year he's ever had in 2024. So.
Not a bad golfer either.
Yeah, that's right. And now a new dad. So the challenge is getting out of your own way. It is a mental challenge first and foremost. Most people are scared to do it because, now I've got to give some money up, which you're not. You're going to make more money. But you feel like that's what it is, right? So that's number one challenge. And then the second challenge is, my customers would never accept someone else helping them, It's like, well, if you weren't around, trust me, they'd find another realtor.
Yeah.
So I had to tell Josh all the time, all the time while he was learning and growing. He's like, I know you're good at what you do, but get out of your way. There's a lot of other great agents out there too. And that's not, you got to get out of your own way. So for me to be able to have an empty nester, say, someone that's like my age, and hand them off to a 20-something-year-old, right? You're like, are they ever going to do that? Well, if they're good enough, they will. And if your systems are good enough, they will. They just want the service. If you can keep the level of service, that's what they want. It's not necessarily you, although you're great and all. right?
Yeah.
It's the level of service they're looking for. So I have trained him, and he thinks like I do. He gives the same advice I do. He negotiates really great, and he's probably, this is one fascinating thing I think I have learned about having a buyer's agent and having a contract to close specialist, and we have a VA, and I have a listing assistant, is that he is so much better than I ever was as a buyer's agent because it's all he focuses on. Right. So can you imagine going to a doctor who's like a general practitioner and you've got a heart problem and you want him to solve your heart problem? He's going to go, no, I want you to go to the specialist, the cardiologist, right? And so when that cardiologist then specializes in that, he's fantastic at that, better than that general practitioner could ever hope to be. And I think that's what I found myself like. I'm a general practitioner. I do it all. Right.
Right.
And you can't, once you do specialize, it's amazing the way that you can convey information and the ability that he has on the buyer's side to help people get out of their own way, right? Yeah. And give them proper perspective and negotiate. It's completely different to negotiate on the buy side than it is on the list side. They're two different negotiation skills. They're just different. It's a different skill set. So now that I'm not running around like a rabbit, with my head cut off, and I'm able to just focus on listings and focus on the team, and it's amazing. I get better. He gets better. We all get better because we're all allowed to stay in our own lane. Yeah. And that 20%, you find that 20%, and when you're the all-around agent, your 20% is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's humongous, right? You're like, okay, I only have 5 things to do. Lead gen, right? Follow up, go on appointments, sign contracts, negotiate, right? Yeah. So, but that's not, none of that's the business side of it. Mm-hmm. None of that is the business side of it. Yeah. So your 20% is big when you're a solo agent. And I've got a much better, I'm off on weekends. I don't work weekends. Mm-hmm. I'm like, could you imagine that? Oh my God. As a solo agent, that was never going to happen. Yeah,
there's probably a lot of agents that are like, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, if I want to go to the lake every other weekend, I can. And that's kind of our goal. Once the, nice weather hits, we try to go down every other weekend. Mm-hmm. Or I'm like, hey, what if I stayed a week or 10 days? Mm-hmm. I can. And so because you have leverage, so your life looks completely different and you're better. You're better at what you do. You make more money at it because you're better. People know it. And quite honestly, you have more time to focus on the people that you're helping.
That's such great perspective.
So
let's shift gears here a little bit. You're one of the most knowledgeable people I've ever met when it comes to market data and market statistics. Like, you have a really great way of just articulating what's going on in the market and then using that to just educate. Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you were a teacher previously, correct?
No, I've never been a teacher. I do have a teaching gift.
Teaching gift. There it is.
I do know that is part of who I am. If I know something, I can't wait for you to know it.
Yes.
If I could just like zip open your head, put it in there and zip it back, I would.
Yes. And I see that.
I'm like, I can't help myself. So, and this was part of my journey of figuring out who I was. Mm-hmm. Like Find Your Why, Purpose Factor, books like that, to really help you figure out who you are. So I figured out I'm a teacher by nature, right. And I also figured out I was a project manager. And I was like, oh my God, who knew?
Yeah.
So that's the way I do my business.
Yes, and I see that so clearly, right? So where do you see the market headed in 2025? Like, what were your key takeaways from 2024, and then based off the data and stats and things like that, what are you forecasting for this year?
Well,
what do you see?
Everything you hear is wrong because everything you hear is national news. The end, right? So you have to have local knowledge. So when you listen to the national news right now, they'll say, hey, inventory's climbing. Prices are starting to come down. And then people will say that to you. Hey, I hear prices starting to come down. I'm like, not in St. Louis. Okay, so and then they'll caveat, like you'll read a lot of stuff like Housing Wire had a big thing like, oh my gosh, the inventory's growing, but not in the Midwest, by the way. Yeah, not in St. Louis. So that's one of the reasons I've really dug into stats. I was going to be a math major in college, so I guess I like numbers. So stats are easy for me to read and do. So I basically think that we're still in a low inventory environment. It's a supply-demand issue. We're 4.5 million homes short because of the downturn. Houses just didn't get built. They should be here. They're not. Don't have them. Okay, so if rates are going to improve, which is the prediction for 25 is rates get down to the 6s and kind of hang there instead of hanging in the 7s. If that's so, that just puts more buyers in the market. Might put more sellers in the market. This is going to put more buyers in the market. So we have a supply and demand problem, and it's not going to go away. So 2025 in St. Louis, we're still down almost a third in inventory. Seriously. So just compared to 2019, we're like used to a whole lot more homes on the market and being available than there are in St. Louis. And that's not going to change in 2025. There's nothing that's going to change that. So we're still going to be low. Our inventory might come up a little. It's still going to be a supply issue. So 2025 is going to see your typical 3 to 4% appreciation. We were kind of, whether you looked at average or median, sale price rise for 2024, right in the middle is like 5% for St. Louis last year in 2024. 4% is always the prediction on the average for St. Louis, for actually nationally, 4%. And we're going to see it again. We're already seeing the spring bump. There are still multiple offers in January, in December, in February. It's still multiple offer situation that's not going away. It's great that we're one of the most affordable markets, so we draw people from other states come here and go, oh, wow, this is great. So then you got that influx of buyers. So, I don't see 2025 much different than 2024 in St. Louis because of the supply issue.
Yep, that'd be my prediction as well. So if you're an agent watching this, what would be your advice to that agent on how to win in 2025?
Well, I guess how to win as far as growing your business, so to speak. So find your lead gen tool. That's what you got to do. I have a lender partner. We started podcasting a year ago, about this time last year.
The fundamentals of real estate.
Yes.
Go check it out.
The fundamentals of real estate on Spotify. Published every Friday. New episodes. We have over 50 episodes. I think we have 54 being published this week. Because I'm a teacher by nature, I want to tell you, right? And so I do market moment videos along with that. They're only about a minute to minute and a half that we send out to our people. So figure out who you are and go for that. Do that in your lead gen. And it is a people game. You got to get in front of people any way you can do it. And so whether it's an organization that you're in, if you're not in enough of them, get in some more of them. Like right. Get in front of people, find something you love to do. If you love to play tennis, go join a tennis club, like get in front of people. You can use the phone, obviously. But I'm trying to get to the point is like, how do you do this and sustain it for this team when I want to step out? And that's the trajectory I'm on, and that's why I've leaned into video and podcasting, and we're going to lean a lot into AI, lean into that, make your time more efficient, find your 20%. But you got to figure out who you are and how you like to do this business. If you're a party person, and have a party every quarter, have it every month. Yeah. If that's the way you like to do it, but figure out who you are and how you like to do it, and then go do that. That would be my best advice. That's how you win. And it's kind of scary to do a new thing. They're like, well, we're going to podcast. We're going to do it every week. We're going to publish a podcast. Oh, my gosh. What are we going to talk about? Well, there's a lot to talk about, but, so it takes work and effort. But, you also have to lay down a lot of other things. Figure out what you're doing that you really don't need to be doing and lay it down.
Yeah. And
free up your time.
Yeah.
And do your 20%. Figure out what your top 20% is. That 80-20%, principle is going to show up every time. And you're probably, if you're not where you want to be, you're probably either not doing what you know you need to go do, or you're doing a lot of things that are distracting and are not helping you get to where you want to be. So I would take some time to really cut out some things in my life. I did that last year when we went to podcasting. I was like, okay, I've got to cut a few things out or I'll never get there. And so we did. We cut them out.
So along that same line, what would be an area of focus for growth within your business or your team in 2025? What's an area that you feel like you can improve in?
Embracing AI. That's one of our number ones because that's leverage, right? And so
More time.
So you're going to either leverage what people, tech, systems, right? And so that's what we're all about now, is trying to lean into how can this better help us be more efficient, service our clients better, and serve more of them well, right? So that's really our big focus, is on leaning into more leverage. Yeah.
So you touched a little bit about KW. Talk to me about the influence that that's had on.
It's an incredible influence. I was not a business major. My parents knew nothing about money, so did not pass it on because they didn't have it to give. Passed a lot of great things on to me, but that was one of them. So I had to go learn that somewhere, right? And so I learned it at KW between the Market Center, the BOLD program, the family reunions, the mega camps, just like any training. There's regional training that comes in every quarter or so. How to win with buyers, how to win with sellers. Like, you just took it and took it and took it, because repetition's the mother of learning, right? So first of all, I had to put myself in a place that was the number one coaching and training company. That's number one. Number two, they have the models. So at first it felt like a fire hose. But once you take it and start, okay, this is what I need right now. I'm going to go lean into this particular area of training because it's what I need right now. But it's like a fire hose. So the wealth building. So here's our little mantra. We like to help you build wealth, live your dream lifestyle, and leave legacies that matter. And my parents passed on a great family legacy, spiritual legacy, many great legacies, but not a financial one. And it is one of my primary motivations, one of my big whys, is to pass on a financial legacy to my family. Leaning into the training at KW on building wealth. They're all about not just how do you succeed in real estate. They're all about the whole big wealth picture, including your own health, like, wealth and health, right? And so learning more about wealth has just changed the trajectory of our family. There's absolutely no doubt. So I always wanted to own a condo at the lake. And I had this friend, we went there 10 years, we went to this guy's condo. We'd go every year, girls would go, girls trip, whatever, John and I would go. And I'm like, if you ever sell this condo, you've got to give me first dibs. And I always wanted to own one. We got a boat, but we didn't have the condo. And so I was like, I didn't think it would ever happen. But because I had been at KW long enough, almost like 10 years, when that opportunity came, we were actually ready for it. And we bought it. I was like, oh my God, pinch me. I have a condo at the lake. The other thing was, in the '08 downturn, I was an agent in the '08 downturn. You were selling homes, and the next day it was like falling off a cliff. Just nothing. Phone didn't ring. To experience that downturn was incredible. I never experienced anything like it in my life. And I vowed to myself I would never go through a downturn like that again, because I wasn't ready for it. We did fine. Because we had our house in order, our financial house in order. We were able to do it. But I was like, I never want to do that again, right? And so leaning into the training at KW, anything that it can throw at us, we're ready for it. It's incredible.
Storm.
Unbelievable. Yeah, so it has changed the trajectory of our family. So our kids will benefit. We have a rental house now. We're going to our goal is to buy one every year the next 5 years and have 5 rental homes on the side. So because we used to do that. We hadn't done it in years. So it's like, own real estate, invest, make your money work for you. The passive income part is nothing that anyone ever taught me, along with the fact that KW's like, hey, cost of living doubles every 20 years. So whatever you think you need for retirement, if you're 40, you better double that and then double it again. Right?
Yeah.
And so just things like that, like why my eyes were open. And now I can see further, and the opportunities and ideas are way, way bigger. My world is bigger. I can see further. It's absolutely amazing. So just the mental, just the ability, your own mindset is what you have to change, because everything's right here. Yeah. Business grows as you do.
The 6 inches between
to the
you.
extent, right. Your business grows to the extent you do. And KW helps you work on you, as well as practical models and practical things to say. Mm-hmm. You know, the scripts were amazing. Yeah. I didn't have a lot of those either. So I went to my first Bold class. The guy was teaching on listings, and they did some listing scripts. And I went in, and I was like, where's that been all my life? I actually went into an appointment, and I did exactly what they said, and it was so easy. I was like, man, I've been doing this the hard way. So they teach you how to do it a little bit easier way, right? And it's a better experience for the client, too. So yeah, it's changed the trajectory of our lives. There's no doubt about it. So
it's powerful.
Very thankful.
Powerful. I remember one of our first conversations, we talked about John Maxwell and the John Maxwell Study Bible. Mm-hmm. I know your faith's super important to you, and as it is in my life as well. So talk to me about the importance of faith as an entrepreneur. And
wow, you need it.
yeah. Talk to me about that, and then maybe just like leadership and kind of maybe if there's a favorite John Maxwell book or.
Well, the 21 Laws of Leadership was my favorite Maxwell book, along with the Maxwell Bible, commentary Bible, because he pulls all the leadership lessons right out of Scripture as you're reading, and it's just amazing. And so I took a gifting test one time, and it showed that I had a gift of leadership. I was like, what? I don't even know what that is. And that's when I started reading John Maxwell, because in my favorite parable in the Bible is the one about the talents, where the guy's like, hey, here's 10 talents, and I give you 5, and I give you 1. And the guy with the 10, he was like, yeah, here's 10 more. I did it. Mm-hmm. And the guy with 5 was like, hey, here's 5 more. And the guy with the 1 is like,
went and buried it.
He went and buried it. And the master's like, you lazy and wicked servant. I was like, wow, that's powerful. So, to me, the moral of the story is that you've been given gifts by God, and you should develop them. And I've been able to develop my giftings through real estate and help people. And I think that I have an obligation to God who gave them to me to develop them. Mm-hmm. And so having that as a big why is hugely important, because that will push you through a lot of areas where it's scary. It's scary to go to the next level. We get really comfortable fast. Mm-hmm. And so, getting out of your comfort zone, that's part of my faith, because, I owe it to God to get out of my comfort zone. He put you here for a reason, and the reasons are your giftings to use other people and to help them, and to share with them, the gospel, really. And you do that through your life. So treating people well in hard times, trusting God when that deal doesn't work out and that really doesn't close. And you're like, okay, God, I know you got this. Or, hey, I didn't get that client. They said no. And then later you look back and you go, oh yeah, you saved me from a big one there. That was a mess that they got themselves into. And there's like you look back and you can see, but in the moment, trusting them that He's putting you in front of the right people, that you're going to treat people well, and honor Him in all your business dealings, and He's going to honor that, and so. You can relax, and you can let people be who they are. And if they want to use someone else because you're either too close to them and they're not comfortable with family or somebody that's close or whatever, or, for whatever reason, you're like, hey, you know what? You need to do what you feel comfortable with. And it's fine. It's your life. You make your decisions. It's great. And you can let them go and let them be. And that's really important, just to be able to relax and be confident that, God's helping you. Yeah. As long, you just got to keep going, though. You just don't quit. That's a big thing, too. You just don't quit. If you want to stay in real estate, you just don't quit. Because there's a lot of times where you feel like quitting. It's like, sometimes you're like, oh, why did I get into this business? And then other times you're like, this is the best business I ever got in. Right. And that's real estate. The roller coaster of life is in a real estate transactions. And it really, if you let it can help you really level out and not ride those roller coasters of life. And it helps you in every area of life if you can trust God through the roller coasters, because you experience it every day in real estate. It's closing. It's not closing. It's closing. It's not closing.
That made me think of a saying that I heard one time. It was, be fruitful where you're planted. It's like, I think we're always, as entrepreneurs, we want to always focus on the next thing and and what's next and what's coming and what should I be focused on and the year ahead, right? But I think it's dangerous to get caught up in that whenever, just be present, right? Be where your feet are and serve the people that are right in front of you. Right?
That's right. It's doing what's in front of you to do. This is what's in front of me now. I can do this now. Instead of going, oh, I wish I could do that. Yeah. Do what's in front of you to do and make your steps.
Awesome. Yeah. So last question, I end every podcast this way. What's been the most impactful or your favorite book or podcast? You can't say your own podcast, by the way. But what's been the most impactful book as far as personal or professional development?
Oh, there's many.
You can say your top 3 if you want.
I think trying to discover who I am, the Find Your Why and Purpose Factor, those books are very impactful. Superfans has been a great book. Ultimate Sales Machine has been a really great book. The 21 Laws of Leadership were really helpful because it teaches you something actually a little bit even different than those other books do. But starting with who you are, I would say Find the Why and the Purpose Factor were really great. And then trying to get a hold of yourself. And what I mean by that is, like, the hardest thing is to control you, to schedule you, not everybody else. Okay? And so sometimes just getting a handle on yourself and your schedule and how you're going to flow through each day and getting in a routine and getting that cadence going, that's really helpful and a good, purposeful cadence. Then, I've read different books on that. Resolution Factor, the 12-week year. But I just kept trying different systems to figure out which one was going to fit me.
Yeah, your system's really, really interesting. You write out your top priorities.
Yeah. And I think this is in the Ultimate Sales Machine, I believe. And this guy was like, how do you run a really huge company? And he like tells you how to do it. And it's so applicable to real estate. And you're like, his system was just writing out his 6 priorities for the day and then assigning how much time each one was going to take. And if you got more than 6, who are you going to delegate to, right? When's it going to be done? So how much time each one takes. And then when am I going to do it today? And then leveraging off the rest of the stuff and figuring out how in the world I am going to accomplish all this. The other one was a meeting once a week for every area. So we meet every morning right now just for marketing because it's at the beginning of the year and we're trying to get all our things like a shred event coming up and all the things. We meet once a week about the podcast and then we can get our scripts down. So once a week meeting for each area so that you can start compartmentalizing in your brain. You get your list of what you need to do for that next meeting to push that forward. So I'm representing a builder right now, and he wants to build a lot of homes, and I'm like, we need to meet once a week. And so that really helped. So I pulled that team together, and we meet every Monday, and we go through all the things. It's like, you do this, you do this, you do this, I'll do this, boom, meet you next Monday. and it helps push everything forward. And it also gives a deadline, right? Like, hey, I have to have this done by this date. So it's a system, right? That's been super helpful.
Which is leverage, right?
Which is leverage. Right.
That's great.
So like I got a vendor meeting coming up and I had to schedule, okay, when am I going to do the slideshow for that? When are we making our calls to invite everybody? How are we doing that? So then we met once a week. Actually, we were meeting every morning until we got that one laid out so that we can meet them once a week on it. So, and then boom, then we can get it done. So a system like that is really super helpful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I've enjoyed the conversation. I know everybody else is going to get a ton of value from it as well. So thank you so much for taking time out.
Well, thanks for having me. It was fun talking.
And
and KW is the best. So if you need a place for training to learn about business, figure out who you are and how to do it, it's the place to be, no doubt.
let's have some fun.
All
Have
right.
some fun doing it too.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, thanks,
Awesome.
Jaden. I
Awesome.
appreciate it.
All right. We will see you on the next episode. Thanks, guys.
All right.